All right, in this video, let's break down quadratics, all their methods that we have of solving a quadratic. There's advantages and disadvantages to each one of the methods you're taught. Okay, I'll talk about each and every one of those, give you a quick example so you can see it, and then we'll work through them. So factoring, what's nice about it? What's not so nice about it? Quick, it's easy when expressions can be factored. The problem is they can't always be factored. So if you have something like x squared plus 6x plus 8, this is an easily factored quadratic. So split it up, x times x is going to give me that x squared in the front. I need two numbers that multiply together to make 8, but add together to make 6. That's a 2 and a 4. And then remember you set it equal to 0. That'd be -2 and -4 would be your solutions for this quadratic right here. Okay, so you can factor that one. But sometimes they can't be factored. And when they can't be factored, you've got to eliminate this method and go with one of the other four. Is it graphing, square roots, completing the square, or the quadratic formula? We'll get down to the quadratic formula at the end, but when in doubt, go to the quadratic formula. It works for everything, right? It's just sometimes it's a little more trickier than it is from one of the other methods. Okay, graphing. Well, what's the beauty of graphing? You can see the number of solutions right away. So if I have a graph and I draw a parabola out and that's what it looks like, I can tell right away that I have two solutions to this quadratic. The problem is, what if this number here is -5.8? Okay, you're not always going to be able to tell exactly what that value is. So graphing can be helpful. However, it's not always going to give you an exact value that you're looking for. Sometimes we got to go with completing the square quadratic formula in order to find those irrational values that we do come up with quite often with the quadratic formula. Okay, so that's one perk, is you can see the number of solutions, but it may not give you exact solutions. It's great when we're approximating, right? So if it was 5.8, was the actual value, we could tell that it's probably pretty close to 6. So you could guess or approximate 5.8, 5.9, something along those lines. And then you can also use technology to graph. So quick and easy, plug the information in. It'll graph it out for you on websites like Desmos. You can get those parabolas graphed very quickly for you so you can determine how many solutions it has. But remember, it won't always give you an exact solution. Oftentimes, if it's an integer, those are easier to figure out than any decimals. Okay, using square roots. That would be like an equation like this. If I were to give you x squared equals 36, we can just use our square roots, right? We can square root it. That cancels out the exponent, leaving me with the value of 6. That's a very basic one, but we can always, if we had like, let's say we had a c in there as well. So let's just say plus 3 equals 39. Same idea, right? You're going to have to square root at the end. Right now, we got to move this 3 over. So -3 minus 3. That then gets me to x squared equals 36. This would be one that I would just use square roots to solve very quickly. Positive and -6 would be your solutions there. Okay? So positives, you can use to solve equations that look like that. Negative, it can only be used for certain equations. So you're going to have an x squared and then a c term, or you're not using that strategy. All right. Completing the square, best used when a, remember a is the front coefficient, ax squared plus bx plus c. If a is a 1, so if it starts just x squared like that, that's when you're going to be using complete the square. And b is even. When b is even, it makes it a little bit easier. So if it's a number like 8 or 6 or 4, those are numbers that'll divide nice and neat and not give you decimals when you go to complete the square. And then last but not least, we have the quadratic formula. We should all have this memorized. If we're being asked to use it, you want to have it memorized. Opposite of b, plus or minus root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Once you have it memorized, plugging information into it becomes much easier. You start to realize what numbers are going to go where. And once you do a couple of problems, you start to get the ball rolling and you go through them much quicker. So again, every method has its advantages and its disadvantages, but the quadratic formula can be used for any quadratic equation you come up with. So this is your dead giveaway that one will absolutely work no matter what. when one of the other 4 options does not. It gives exact solutions, but it takes time to do, and it can have some difficult calculations involved with it. But once you get the hang of it, it becomes much faster. So hopefully this helps you understand when and where to use which method. I'm hoping that your teachers are teaching you all of them, because when you start to realize, hey, I can complete the square here, you can go about it much faster. If you want to go and factor it, these routes just kind of help you make decisions that aren't going to stress you out or make it challenging or more challenging than it needs to be. So learn all the methods, get good at all of them. And then once you start going into any kind of quadratic, you'll start to recognize things. You'll be like, oh, I'm factoring that one. Ooh, this one here, I'm gonna just use my square roots real quick. I can just do that real fast. I have no idea what's going on here. Doesn't seem like it's factorable. Let's go with the quadratic formula. No matter what, you're gonna get the results you need as long as you use the methods that are intended. Hopefully this makes sense. Study hard and good luck on your upcoming test.